Hey, what's the word, everybody? Welcome to episode 3 now
Yes,
of the Art of
sir.
Squabble podcast, man. Once again, it's your boy Lil Derek. We got Les here with us, Reed Starks once again. And
Yes, sir.
today we have our very first guest, a very, very special guest, St. Louis's own Johnathon Zulu.
Zulu. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, Johnathon Zulu. How about you go ahead and introduce yourself for the people?
Well, for the people that don't know me, it's me, the real Jay-Z, the one and only VP, the Black Panther, Johnathon Zulu, the Black Panther of the Lou.
Zulu.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Great introduction. What you was about to say, Reed? You was about to say
I
something?
said I like it.
Yeah. He got the energy, man. I told y'all, man. He got the charisma. That's one thing for sure. I guess we can start. I'm gonna start go back even further, man. What I would say, what was like me personally? I know you personally. This is my uncle for those that don't know. So we grew up watching together, but what was that watching wrestling together every week, every day, pretty much playing the game together, WWE, coming up with our own storylines and things like that. So what was like that point when you were a kid? Because I know it was really young for you when you realized that like that's what I want to do. I want to be a professional wrestler.
Oh man, it's really hard to pinpoint back to just one moment or one particular match that hit that button inside of me. But I'll never forget that. I think the love for it really goes back even before I knew what wrestling was. It really goes back to my dad and growing up with him and him being a big fan of combat sports, boxing, karate movies. He loved Bruce Lee and everything like that. So growing up watching that stuff with him, I already had it inside of me. So when I was flipping through TV one day with one of my sisters, and we happened to come across wrestling, I always remember it was Rock getting beat up by somebody in the ring. I don't remember who exactly, but I told my sister to stop. I was like, "Ooh, that's fighting! Stop! Let me watch that." And I was hooked from there. Then on, I found out what it was. It was Monday Night Raw, and started watching every week. And it wasn't long after that I decided that, man, it was uh, something that I really loved and that I wanted to do.
Simple as that, man. Of course I remember hearing that story. You know, my first rendezvous is actually remembering something from wrestling is like seeing Big Boss Man getting hung by the Undertaker. So you know what I'm saying?
How could you forget?
Crazy. Literally, like that's like my first wrestling memory for sure. Watching with you and Grandpa, watching with y'all for sure. We was watching WrestleMania. That's like my first distinctive memory. So from there, I guess we can fast forward to you actually getting that opportunity to become a professional wrestler, actually deciding to take that chance. You started training in the summer of 2011.
Correct.
Tell us what was that process like signing up for a wrestling school, like what all, because you know I know we went to college and things like that, so like I know it's a lot different process than signing up for other type of schools, but signing up for wrestling school and training to become a professional wrestler, what is that process like? I know we all hear about running the ropes and things like that, but tell us a little bit about your experience.
Well, the actual sign-up process ended up being fairly easy. One of my best friends and the guy who was my tag team partner, Andrew Wilder, we met in high school. grew a bond very quickly over our love for professional wrestling. And after he graduated in 2011, he did some research looking up the South Broadway Athletic Club gym. We knew that the actual like club itself where they performed was pretty close to where we lived at the point in time. We just didn't know where they trained. But he happened to get in contact with them, and their trainer at the time, Johnny Courageous, sent him an email, just let him know about us, and he told us to come down, watch a training session, and then he would, go over everything with us and see if it was something we wanted to really pursue. So we signed up, paid our initial training fee, and it was off to the races from there.
Man, I know. So was it? I don't think I ever asked you this personally. Was it anything like that ever made you like doubt going and finishing wrestling school before you graduated? Was there any moment or any times where you like think like, "Dang, maybe this is too much for me" or anything like that?
Honestly, no, and not to be braggadocious at all, but no, I can't say that any moment really, hit me and made me say, "Oh, I don't think I want to do this." I remember when we first started training. I think anybody that gets into training probably gets told this, that you're going to be sore afterwards, after the first training session, if not after that, especially after the first week, and then at that point you might start questioning things. But I was lucky enough to have already have dabbled in martial arts and a few other things before then. One of my best friends at the time, Paul Ivy, he was a mixed martial artist, and for the longest time, I was his only training partner. And I was lucky enough to actually like officially take applicable combative classes with him, along with Andrew as well and his brother in high school. So I was already used to being thrown around and whatnot, and break falling and whatnot. So I was already conditioned for that a little bit. Um, there were definitely some of the veterans who would try to break you though, put you in a slam, like 50, 100 times in a row, just to see if you had the mental conditioning to want to get up and keep going. But luckily, we were able to do it.
Was your first experience training, you know, they made you run the ropes, I'm assuming, they made you take a bump. Um was there any part of that first time training did you feel like, damn, I got to do this for the next 20, 40 years of my life? Like, damn, that hurt. Like like what was your first training experience like?
Oh, my first training experience itself was pretty fun. Yeah, the first thing they had us do was tell them about ourselves and what our ultimate goal in the business was at that time. After that, they wanted to see all of us take a bump, see how we could deal with that. Taught us the proper way to run the ropes and things like that, and then went over like just basics of matches, like psychology and things like that, before we actually started putting pieces of it together. Um, but yeah, one of the things that I came across fairly early on that I didn't like, and quite honestly, all these years later, I still don't like it. I try to avoid it. Back body drops, man. When someone tosses you over their head, and you end up doing like a quarter flip, landing on your back, man. I absolutely hate those going up in the air, flipping like that. It's not my favorite thing for sure.
I could
That's
imagine.
that's I literally like I can imagine it. I remember like we used to wrestle in the backyard a decent amount, and I remember you coming back and really like once you started going to wrestling school, like teaching me little things, like teaching me to do the tilt-a-whirl hurricanrana and
Yeah.
stuff like that. How to probably do the around the world hurricanrana, how to probably do a regular hurricanrana. You know what I'm saying? How to take a bump properly, things like that. So we had already I know you already had like a little bit of experience for sure on like taking the bumps and things like that. But I know you graduated wrestling school in November of 2011.
Mm-hmm.
Wrestling school isn't that long of a process at all if you are, you know, a little more inclined to get through those necessary steps to become a professional wrestler.
So yeah, I was able to go
But right
through
before you,
training a lot faster than I think most people are able to get through it for sure.
facts. So you hurt your shoulder right before you were about to debut for MMWA, uh, one of the major promotions here in the St. Louis area to this day. And you ended up having to debut in 2012 for Independent Hardcore Wrestling. Now, if I remember right,
Mm-hmm.
me, you, and Paul traveled to that together, if I'm not
I believe
mistaken.
it was.
So I
Yeah,
remember the experience. I don't remember where we went though.
it
Like,
was in
so
Red Bud,
tell us about
Illinois.
that
I remember Red Bud, Illinois. I can never forget.
Red Bud, Illinois. So tell us about that whole experience, because I remember you like getting a call that day, like fairly quickly, and was like, "Hey, we need you to would you be available to do this show?" I don't know if I remember that correctly, but
No,
walk
no,
us
I
through
think you're
that whole
you're pretty
experience.
right there. Um, I was, well, I guess going back a little bit before that, I was training at the MMWA gym, and a guy named Lynn Mephisto and a few of his guys came in to train, and they were just watching me and Andrew and some other guys run the ropes, take some bumps, do some practice matches and whatnot. And Mephisto pulled me to the side and told me that he thought he was good, thought that I was good, and wanted me to come do some shows for him. So we exchanged information, and I didn't really think anything of it from there. But yeah, you and I were out doing some errand that day, and ended up getting a call from him. Like you said, is asking if I would be available in just a few hours to come down and have a match. And I mean, I was put on the spot a bit, and I told him, yeah, I would be down for it. But I do remember after getting off the phone, being more than a little nervous for sure. One of the few times in my life that I've actually ever been nervous. I think you kind of picked up on it because you were just like, "What's up, Bump? You nervous about this? You gonna go ahead and do it?" And I was just like, "Yeah." At that point, my nephew was calling me out. I can't pull back. I can't pull out of this. I gotta go through, and actually just jump in and see what happens. So we packed up everything, called Paul, saw if he wanted to go down with us, and the rest is history. Ended up having a match against can't remember the guy's first name, but I know his last name was McIntyre, and start up a what I think is a fantastic career.
So, what was
And
your first experience, just debuting, wrestling your first match, just seeing the crowd, feeling the atmosphere, and actually getting into the match? What was your feelings?
Oh man, the first time ever coming through that curtain, or just hearing my music and just going through the experience, being in the locker room, something that you will never forget for sure. It was one of the first of many dreams coming true. Um, I definitely made sure to sit back and just take in the moment. How blessed I was to actually get myself there. Like a lot of people grow up with, dreams of doing a bunch of stuff, but not everyone actually takes the steps to make those dreams come true. So I was very happy to be able to go through it. The crowd, even from the very first time I came through, um, didn't know who the heck I was, but they, were into it. Kids were getting up, cheering and whatnot. That might have had something to do with my theme song, though, because from the beginning it's been that dubstep remix of Lion King's "Be Prepared." So I don't know. It was great. Make it answer it short.
That's far.
we fast forward to the what became much of the beginning part of your career. Um, though debuting in singles action was being part of a tag team, as you mentioned earlier, the guy who you started training with Andrew Wilder, one of your childhood best friends. So throughout time, you and Andrew, of course. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about this right quick because this is something that me and you have discussed. Coming in, that is what, like 2012, 2013, going into 2014. You coming in with Andrew, you guys are really, really small compared to a majority of the wrestlers that was there at that time. It was really like a big boys club, a lot of older guys and that old school kind of mentality for MMWA at that time of the bigger guys are gonna shine more than the smaller guys. That old 80s, 90s type of thinking, Vince McMahon type of thinking. But so tell me about like the trials of getting through that and like making yourself known through that situation, because you guys probably caught some W's, but you guys were getting tossed around, losing a lot of matches, but yet you were still able to get over and with the fans and craft a lane for yourself to where you eventually started becoming one of the top tag teams in MMWA. So tell me about like those trials of being like the smaller guys in the locker room, but also the newer guys too in this kind of big boys, old guys club at the time.
Well, I think the trials go back to a little bit before we initially got the STL connection together for sure. With Andrew debuting with the MMWA a little bit before me, he came in when they were in the midst of the big boy mentality, the old school mentality for sure. And I know that he was looked down on not just by the locker room for his size, but also by the crowd. I remember him telling me many a times that when he first came out, like it wasn't even like a booing reaction for him. It was just like why is this small guy here? Like fans would tell him to eat a cheeseburger, stuff like that. But I think that through him going through some grueling matches on his own, and one in particular where he got his nose busted in the middle of the match and just gritted his teeth and kept going. I think from that point on, for him, that's where he started to gain the respect. But for me, for my very first match in MMWA, it was against a very big boy named Dave Osborne. Guy like over 300 pounds and whatnot, literally over twice my size at the time. And I think the fact that I didn't back down at all in that match, I gave him a fight. I mean, I didn't win, but it wasn't a squash or anything. I proved to the fans from that point on that, no matter who you put me in the ring with, whether I win or lose, there's going to be a fight before they get that 1, 2, 3 or whatnot. They're not going to just they're not just going to walk over me or anything like that. And then from that point on, I guess I caught the eye of someone in the management, because then they started to team me with, I guess, some of the veteran black guys that were there at the time. Guys like Brian Johnson and Night Train, Gary Jackson. True legends that traveled all over the place, appeared for WWF back in the day and WCW. Both of them have been multi-time MMWA champions. So I think putting me with them was kind of a test to see if I could hang with the big boys in anything, in any way, see what they would think of me, and in the fans' eyes, give me a bit of that rub. And then fast forward just a few months after teaming with those two guys, Andrew and I finally ended up getting together, and at that time, that was kind of a change of the guard backstage at MMWA, where the guys who lived and died by that old school, big boy mentality kind of started to go away, and some new guys started to get power. I guess not necessarily power, but started to help Tony Costa at the time run MMWA, and was able to bring a little bit of new generation era mentality to him and started to push some of the smaller guys who were training alongside with me and Andrew and push the new generation at that time. So by the time we got together, we didn't have to necessarily go through a whole bunch of those trials and tribulations together, other than just traveling the road and paying our dues before we were ready to, start getting some W's.
Interesting. So, I guess one of the next the next major thing I like to discuss is that experience of, and I was there. I can't remember it that well, honestly. It's kind of like a blur to me, if I'm being honest. But I remember it like it was yesterday because I remember a nice amount of the family being there. Tell us about that experience with, and it being with, of course, one of your best friends, Andrew the Wolf Wilder. Tell us about that first experience of you winning your first championship as a professional wrestler, but that also being a tag team title that you win with your best friend. Like, tell us about that.
Man, it's a moment that I think back on often for many reasons, and can't help but to smile when I do. It was another one of those dream come true moments, man. Andrew and one of our other best friends, Nick, used to come over our house daily and watch wrestling, play SmackDown versus Raw or WWE, whatever at that point in time. We had created ourselves as the STL Connection long before we actually made it a reality, just as a dream. Didn't know that one day we would actually, take that from a video game and turn it into real life. So it was very surreal that night, and I'll always remember that we ended up having two matches that night. The first one, we had a number one contendership match against J-Mal, Swag, and Baracus, where we ended up winning. And later on in the night, it was supposed to be a tag team championship match against the champions at the time, AJ Williams and Demarius Jones. Were going to defend their titles against LMC and Chase King. But somehow, before the match ended up starting, in the midst of those two jaw-jacking against one another, I think it was Chase King and LMC ended up calling me and Andrew out. So, of course, we came down, and then the commissioner was just like, hey, if you guys want, we can add you into the match right now and just make it a triple threat. We asked the fans what they wanted. Of course, everyone was going wild, saying, yeah, do it. And we just sucked it up. We knew we were a little beat up, going into the match. Both of these teams were fresh, but luckily, with it being triple threat, we were able to get a little bit of rest on the apron and capitalize and do what we do best, to win. And man, winning those titles, it was emotional. It brought a tear to my eye at the time. I said, thinking back at it, sometimes it still does, because it was a very special moment, making dreams come true, and like you said, having all of our family there. I'll always remember sister who's no longer here with us, Pam, being one of the loudest people that night. If you go back and watch any of the videos that are on YouTube, you can still hear her screaming, jaw-jacking with LMC, him taking his barrettes out of his hair and throwing them at her and our family. Yeah. Like, it was a wild night. It was amazing. Something that will definitely live with me forever.
Definitely, man. That is funny that you mentioned that, but I remember that now with him throwing the barrettes at her. Yeah, man. That I think that's one of the best things about independent wrestling shows too, is like having that ability to like jaw jack with the fans. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure. And are there any promotions that you said really quick before I keep going? Are there any promotions that you have played heel at? I know MMWA, you've pretty much always been a face.
As a singles wrestler, no. My entire career I've pretty much been face. But as a tag team with Andrew, yeah. there's been some promotions that we've traveled to in Illinois and Tennessee and whatnot, where we would come in and play the bad guys.
Rightfully so, as the STL connection should, especially in places in Illinois. I would say especially. Oh, okay. Tell us a little bit about your first tag team, your only tag team title reign so far, but that tag team title reign that lasted from about November 2014 to midway summertime 2015. Tell us what do you remember about that reign, how it felt being a champion for the first time? Was there any new responsibilities, or did you get like more creative freedom a little bit, or anything like that?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we ended up having those titles for about 7 months, if I remember correctly. And yeah, before winning them, I think we were definitely taking more of the I guess rookie route in wrestling. Where we were just listening, letting everyone else um guide us in our career and whatnot. And after we got those championships, we ended up getting a whole lot more respect, and we were the ones, yeah, being asked what we wanted to do in matches and actually putting them together and whatnot. That, along with the fact that we were traveling um, quite often at that point in time, like every weekend, going somewhere in wrestling, it definitely helped us get a lot of respect on our names at the time, for sure. But as far as responsibilities, no, we didn't like relax at all. We still helped to break down the ring and set up and things of that nature at the time. We didn't, sit on the fact that we were champions and let everyone else do it. Some people do, but no, that wasn't our style for sure. Um, no, we just wanted to set an example for the young guys in the locker room that were there with us, and guys and girls in the crowd that were watching. I know me personally, one of the things I always wanted to do when I was champion, and even when I'm not champion, is just inspire people. I want someone to look at me the way that I looked at, my favorite wrestler growing up, Stone Cold, and just think that, when they see me, know that that's what they want to do one day. And lo and behold, when me and Andrew were holding those titles the first time, there were a bunch of girls and guys in the crowd watching us who are actually in the wrestling business now, who have come back and, I guess in a way, given us our flowers personally and told us that back in those days, that they were watching us and how much we inspired them. Guys like Damian Cortez and Tommy Davis, Chris Exodus, um, Maddie Monarch, and Ashlyn Alexander, all of the Dragon Guild, CHWA crew. Like, it definitely humbled me when I came back in the business later on after my hiatus, to hear them tell me that, that I was able to inspire them, and they were just waiting for me to come back to, get in the ring with me themselves.